Welcome back to our financial freedom journey, everybody. I'm Jay from Investonomics, and today we're going to talk about how you save $500. That's really impressive, especially in this economy with so much going on and so many costs rising, including our cost of living. Today we're going to talk about 4 different ways that you can spend that $500 that you've earned very diligently, and this is not what you're thinking it might be. So stay tuned, and of course this doesn't involve paying AI bots to make us rich either. For those of you that were wondering, sorry, that's not the case here.
Whoa, wait a minute. This is gonna make me rich!
Before we dive into those 4 ways though, I want to dive in why I think differently than other creators and other personal finance experts in this respect. When you have that $500, you're probably either a student or someone who just started working, or you work part-time while you're in school, and you have this $500 sitting somewhere, and it's not likely to be recurring income. So because of this reason, we want to find a way where you can build the maximum return on investment, or ROI, with that money, and this is not going to be through the stock market. Yeah, that's right. That might shock you hearing that coming from me, but we're not going to invest it in the stock market.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
And the main reason for that is it's not recurring. So that $500 is one lump sum investment, and in reality, we can get much higher ROI doing other things with that money. So what then if you did invest your $500 in the market? What kind of returns would that yield you, both in the long run and on an annual basis? Well, the math here is pretty simple. So if we start with that $500 and we want to find out, say in 50 years, how much we're going to make off that $500, again, assuming no other contributions, either monthly or ever, so just that $500, that would leave us with about $29,000 by age 70 if you're 20 right now. So in 50 years, our $500 is only turned into $29,000, which doesn't seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things. Similarly, on an annual basis, if we assume a market return of around 7%, this means that we'll be making about $35 per year from that investment. Again, not something that's huge, and if you're adding monthly, of course it makes a lot more sense to do investing in the stock market right now. Speaking of, let's move on and start with our first one. So the first thing I want to emphasize that you should do with your $500 if you're a student or if you're just starting in a new job and you have that $500 is to pay off your credit cards or very high interest debt or any lines of credit you might have. Of course, this doesn't include student loans, assuming those have no interest currently or they're very low, but focusing on that high interest debt. And the reason I say this is because some of these cards, for example, a credit card would go between 15 and 20% per year in annual interest. And this compounds massively over time. If you were to compound that same $500 for that 50 years that we looked at before, that gave us the $29,000 in the market. If you did the same thing with that credit card debt and you had $500 outstanding, and of course, this is assuming we're not making the minimum payments, it would be around $860,000. So you can see there's a huge disparity there between what we could have made in the market and what our debt would be worth if we didn't pay it off. So again, that huge ROI difference is here about $830,000. So if you eliminate this quicker by using that $500 to pay that down, you're saving yourself a lot of future stress. And of course, the sooner you pay off that debt, the sooner you can start investing, and you can invest a lot more when you do so. Now, the second thing you should think about doing if you have $500 right now is start building an emergency fund. And I'm going to divert a little bit from the traditional advice here because a lot of people just say, okay, have an emergency savings fund and you just have it in your checking account or in a very low APY or annual percentage yield savings account. And this is complete BS. You don't want to do that. So if you're going to add this $500 to your emergency fund, you want to look at something like a GIC or a CD in the US. So it's a guaranteed investment certificate in Canada and a certificate of deposit in the United States. And this is with your bank. So what they do is they hold that amount of money and you can't touch it, typically a year, and they will give you a guaranteed return on that investment. Currently, it's between 4.5% and 5.5%. So a very good return on your money if you're just deciding to save this for an emergency. And that brings us to the second reason why we don't want to invest, and that's because if we do decide to invest and the market drops significantly and we need that $500 for an emergency, we don't have it. So here we're providing a little bit more safety. And again, you can also put it in a savings account with a high percentage yield as well, in case you do need it within that 1 year. That might be a little bit safer depending on your situation. And when you do put it in a high yield savings account or in a GIC or CD, it actually allows it to keep growing. So you can use those amounts in excess of the $500 in case there is an emergency. And for those of you that aren't familiar with an emergency fund, what it is you need it in order to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's kind of the goal that you're working towards anyways. $500 probably won't get you there, but it's a start, of course. So you want between 3 to 6 months of your monthly costs to be able to be covered with an emergency fund. So say if you have $5,000 per month in costs, multiply that by 3, that's $15,000, and multiply that by 6, that's $30,000. So between $15,000 and $30,000 saved. Of course, if you live a little bit more frugally, this will be less. This is the one I love the most and I swear by absolutely, and I do it all the time, is investing in yourself. And that is our third way to spend your $500.
Investing in yourself is the best thing you can do. Anything that improves your own talents. Like, nobody can take it away from you. They can run up huge deficits and the dollar can become worth far less. You can have all kinds of things happen. But if you've got talent yourself and you've maximized your talent, you've got a terrific asset.
So this is probably the best way to use this money because you're so young, you have so many skills you haven't yet learned, and there's probably tons of things that interest you and tons of courses you want to take, tons of people you want to learn from, and this is that opportunity. So if you use that $500, go buy a course, go learn how to code, go find a coach and get one-on-one coaching from them in an area that you're interested in. This is a great opportunity to learn that. And of course, if you learn stuff like that at this age and it ends up being your passion, you learn it very well, and you're gonna blow that ROI of anything else right out of the water. So I love this one, definitely do that. And this is the one I like the most. So that's what I would recommend to do with your $500. And finally, this is kind of tied to the third one, but our last one here is starting some kind of side hustle, be that YouTube, a podcast, some kind of small business that you want to start, and just use that $500 to fund your startup. So what you want to think about here is, for example, this YouTube channel, I'm shooting it with a camera, with a tripod, I have a microphone, some lighting, and you want to use that $500 to buy this kind of equipment. You don't even have to at the start, but just invest a little bit of money, and if you really want to take it seriously, it can help you do that. So a set of microphones if you want to do a podcast, maybe some chairs. If you want to start a small business or a side hustle, say you want to do some knitting or you want to build some kind of wood project or boxes for people, I don't know, it could be anything. But then you can use the money to buy the product you need and the materials you need. And you can use this to actually start that business and jumpstart it and get it going. So this is also a great one I really love, especially if you're young. You have to try this stuff out because how else are you going to learn? You need to start a small business. If you and your friend are passionate about something, go try it out. Just once a week, meet with them and just talk about it. Put that $500 into it and just see where it leads you. By putting $500 into one or all four of these categories, if you really wanted to, you can split it up evenly if you find that helpful. You can work towards gaining a higher income over time and maybe even using one of these skills that you put your money into. And over time, you can use that to start investing in the stock market and making money more passively. So I don't recommend it right off the bat, but again, it's just for the time being. I urge you to focus on yourself. You're so young, you have time to learn all these things. Focus on your mental health, of course, your financial health, and continued learning because it's so important and it'll lead you to what you love most, and that's all that really matters in this life. And if you want to learn about 3 psychological money tricks that'll save you more money and might even be able to add more than $500, check out this video right here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.